of government where no one can take my rights away. We are supposed to be a republic. Never forget that fact. But in this hypocrisy, we see that 1% of the population has 99% of the wealth. And they have two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. And the rest of us, the peasants, we don't have a party. No one represents us, the disappearing middle class. So I say to celebrate those patriots of 1776. They fought for what was right. But on this day, July 4th, 2008, let's ask ourselves, is it not high time that we fight for our freedom also and demand our constitutional rights be honored? And we should rename it its correct status, Dependence Day, July 4th, 2008, as we accept our oppression and refuse to stand up and defend our God-given rights for liberty and for freedom. And we've been updating the economy quite a bit from time to time, what's been going on as our dollar slowly declines, and we're going to turn to Brian here just in a second. He's going to give us a little bit of update of what's happened since we reported on this. And again, I'd like to give out our phone numbers, 873-1400. If you'd like to call in, 336-499-0681 is our Davie County number. And again, our website's therealnewsradio.com, and our email's on air at therealnewsradio.com. So Brian, if you would, it's been a while since we touched on the economy. A lot has happened. Unfortunately, not much of it's good news, but bring us up to date a little bit where we're at now.
Well, it doesn't look good, Sam. Anyone with a newspaper or TV that's been watching the stock market, the New York Stock Exchange, is well aware of where our economy is headed. And we always see the talking heads, the Jim Cramers and everyone on CNBC talking about this and that, debating back and forth what is the problem, and we rarely hear them talk about falling dollar. This is, of course, a major, major concern as far as our economy is concerned. We came out of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1971, which, of course, held us on the gold standard, holding back the Federal Reserve from printing money out of thin air. And since we came off of that agreement, we went from $800 billion in the overall circulation of our currency to over $10.2 trillion in 2006.
And it's been reported that in the past 3 years, $4 trillion has been printed out of thin air.
And see, that's the irony here, because in 2006, the Federal Reserve stopped reporting the M3 number, which of course is a measure of the amount of money in the overall supply. So actually, they just came out and said, we're not going to tell you anymore how much money is out there. So it's anyone's guess at this point how much money is out there. In fact, we had Congressman Ron Paul claim, and I quote, M3 is the best description of how quickly the Federal Reserve is creating new money and credit. Common sense tells us that a government central bank creating new money out of thin air depreciates the value of each dollar in circulation.
Well, I find it interesting if you look at what other countries report. They're concerned about our dollar because we export so much of our economy. They're concerned about it, but it gets very little reporting here in the United States. Most people are practically unaware of it.
Very, very little, and sometimes we wonder, well, why did they let this happen? Well, actually, it benefits major corporations here in this country because a lot of our business is now overseas. So our major corporations, automakers and such, are now receiving more for their product. The euro is much stronger, the yen is much stronger. They're receiving value overnight just for the currency exchange. So actually, they're making out like the bandits that they are.
And a lot of people have been investing in gold and silver. And do you see gold to take a sharp rise? Do you think we're going to see $2,000 an ounce gold?
Personally, I do. It's just a matter of time. I mean, gold has, of course, intrinsic value in being, value into itself, where obviously paper money doesn't. And just the basic concept here is the more of something there is, the less it's worth. I mean, diamonds are worth more than grains of sand.
And comment on what we've seen with oil just since January 1st.
Oil this year has risen more than 50%. And here, there's a potential conflict, preemptive military action, which may take place against Iran this year. And Iran is OPEC's second largest producer. So, I mean, anyone that puts those two things together can realize oil could potentially double or even triple overnight if stupid enough to invade this country which hasn't done anything to us to warrant being attacked.
That's what I was going to ask you. What did you see ongoing to if this war starts? And they certainly are rattling the sabers.
Absolutely. Recently, we saw Israel conduct a major military exercise in which they practiced such an attack on the Iranian weapons reactors.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens there in the future, and we're going to continue to be updating what we see happening in the economy, because a lot of this goes unreported elsewhere in the media. And again, if you'd like to call in, 704-873-1400, Davie County 336-499-0681. This is the forum for you to get involved and say what's on your mind. You can agree, you can disagree, whatever you'd like to say, chime in. We'd like to hear your opinions. We'd also like to comment on something that happened the week before last. We wasn't here last week to comment on it, but the Supreme Court ruled Thursday before last that Americans have the right to own guns for self-defense and hunting. The Justice's first major pronouncement of gun rights in U.S. history. The court's 5-4 ruling struck down the District of Columbia's 32-year-old gun ban on handguns as incompatible with gun rights under the Second Amendment. The decision went further than even the Bush administration wanted, but leaves most firearm laws intact. The court had not conclusively interpreted the Second Amendment since its ratification in 1791. The amendment reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Personally, I think that word infringed was chosen very carefully. The basic issue for the justices was whether the amendment protects an individual's rights to own guns, no matter what, or whether the right is somehow tied to service in a state militia. Writing for the majority, Justice Scalia said that an individual right to bear arms is supported by the historical narrative both before and after the Second Amendment was adopted. The Constitution does not permit... We got a phone call.
Hello, sir.
Hey, you doing all right today?
I'm doing great, wonderful. Well, I agree with the things you have there. You've spoken that I've heard. I've been listening maybe 30, 40 minutes in my car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you instead of telling all the things that are wrong with America, tell us all the things that are right with America? We need, when things people are down and when things are not good, they need to understand the lessons that they do have. So why don't you come out with that?
Well, you're on the radio. Give us a few.
Sir?
Go ahead and give us a few.
I can't hear you, man. I'm sorry.
Go ahead and give us...
I have to turn this thing all the way down. Wait just a minute. That's because of the radio and that. I'm in my car. Go ahead, what now?
This is the forum for the listeners. Go ahead and give us a few things that's right today.
Just tell us all the cheerful things. Doesn't make us feel better. We always feel better when things are down if we know what we really do have.
Well,
I keep thinking, I look at all the problems that they have in other countries. I know that we are not perfect here, but we have a whole lot to be thankful for and a whole lot more blessings and freedom than most countries have. So come out with that. I'd like to hear you expose on that, okay? That's all I'm saying. Bye.
Okay. Well, let me address that for a second. To fix the problems we've got in America, and there is a great many, we have to be able to talk about them. There's a lot of good things here in America, but there's a lot of things I'm unhappy with, and I'm here to address them for the sake of our children's future. We could all collectively go stick our heads in the sand, but I'd say when we pull them back out, we would just find things in the same mess we've got them in now. So that's why, yeah, you can call it the bad news if you want to, but until we address them and decide that we've had enough of this for the sake of our children,